Welcome Jihan Mohammed to Arab Center and Winter School. First, I want to ask you about your experience here in the Winter School. How you see it?
Actually, I was talking to my colleagues and other participants at the Winter School that this is, I think, one of the best workshops that I've ever attended, and the amount of information that I received and the amount of knowledge that I gained in the past 4 days is equivalent to, I guess, 2 years of PhD courses. So I am very, very lucky to be here, and I'm learning a lot, and I'm very grateful for the Center for organizing this this winter school, and I hope you guys keep doing it.
So in this winter school, you will introduce your research and PhD degree in Michigan University, right?
Michigan State University.
So you say you use the different approach to study the sectarianism in Iraq. So what is the new approach? You say about micro level analysis. What is the new approach, Jihan?
So the predominant approach to study sectarianism is the macro approach, where scholars talk about the mobilization of ethnic and sectarian identities by politicians and elites. And in my research, I argue that there is a lack of perhaps interest in studying sectarianism from the bottom, from a micro level, on the individual level, and how people contribute to the construction and the deconstruction of ethnic and sectarian identities, and how the macro level impact on people's behavior and people's interaction with each other. And that's the focus of my dissertation. And I'm specifically looking at sectarian discrimination, and arguing that sectarianism manifests in different forms. It could be in a vulgar and a violent way, but it could be also in a form of stereotype, discrimination, prejudice, and it could be covert or overt. And I'm more interested in analyzing the subtler forms of sectarianism, manifested through, I don't know, indirectly, or manifested through jokes. So this approach comes from the bottom and up, and in the research I argue that both approaches are important to the understanding of sectarianism in Iraq and also in the rest of the region.
So I understand you study what we call the social sectarianism, the sectarianism between the individuals.
Yes.
Not in the political system.
Yes, that's actually a very interesting question, and I am interested to look at the perception of sectarianism from the perspective of people, like ordinary Iraqis, but also from the perspective of politicians, not as institutions, but as politicians and as individuals, and to see, you know, if there's a difference in the way they conceptualize sectarianism. That's a future project of mine. And I'm very excited and I'm looking forward to work on it.
Jihan, did you make the field work in Iraq, inside Iraq?
After this training, I am going to Iraq, and I'm waiting for my IRB approval form to come out so I can start interviewing people. Initially, I wanted to interview people from Mosul city, but given the recent developments, I'm not sure if that is doable anymore. So I know there are a lot of Mosuli people living in Duhok right now. They fled the city after the occupation of ISIS. So perhaps I'm going to interview people who are Mosuli, but they work and live in Duhok right now.
Okay, great. So what the new in your research? What it add to the literature about the sectarianism and the sectarianism in Iraq especially?
So for another paper that I worked, that was for my PhD, one of my PhD requirements, and I used the Eurobarometer data set. It gives new insights into the narrative on sectarianism, and I think one of the most important findings that I found is that the relationship or the association between religiosity and sectarianism is not significant, which means being religious or not, it doesn't matter. You know, especially the Western perception of sectarianism is that sectarianism means religion, right? If you're religious, these are religious differences and all that, but my findings show otherwise, that these two variables are not actually associated with one another, and that is a, you know, I argue it's a very important finding.
Did you read the Arabic literature about this sectarianism?
So when I first got into my PhD program, I went there with the intention to introduce my professors and the program to the local literature, but unfortunately, that was not positively received at the beginning, and I was encouraged to focus more on the Western literature published in English until recently, when I defended my dissertation proposal. I had a few people actually encouraging me to do that, so I went back, and I am in my dissertation pushing Western scholars to give more credit to local scholars, and especially Ali Al-Wardi. I don't think enough credit is given to Ali Al-Wardi and other scholars who are local. You know, they understand the culture, the language, the religion in itself, and I think their publications are not enough recognized in the literature, and I'm trying to push the narrative towards that.
Okay, but there are many works after Ali Al-Wardi. Here in the Arab Center, we focus on to study the sectarianism and the ethnic conflict in this area. So I hope you can get our work here. So many thanks, Jihan. We hope to see you again in the events of Arab Center. Thank you very much.
Thank you.